Hello, my name is Erika Grandolfo, and I am the Scientific Affairs Manager within the Department of Harm Reduction and Engagement at Imperial Brands. Today, I'll share key findings from a recent literature review addressing tobacco-free nicotine pouches and their potential contribution to tobacco harm reduction. Tobacco harm reduction refers to strategy designed to reduce the health risk associated with tobacco smoking, which may involve the continued use of nicotine or tobacco. Next-generation products can make a meaningful contribution to tobacco harm reduction by delivering nicotine without burning tobacco. Recently, a new category of oral nicotine products, tobacco-free nicotine pouches or simply nicotine pouches, has emerged. Nicotine pouches from reputable manufacturers contain pharmaceutical-grade nicotine combined with different substrates and ingredients. As they do not contain tobacco leaf or involve tobacco combustion, and since nicotine is delivered through the gums rather than inhalation, the related toxicants that naturally occur in both combust and non-combust tobacco are likely to be fewer and substantially lower compared to traditional snus and cigarettes. Recently, various brands of nicotine pouches have been developed and marketed globally. However, given the novelty of these products, the perceived lack of understanding of their potential contribution to tobacco harm reduction, and the growing volume of research, Imperial Brands conduct a review of the scientific literature on tobacco-free nicotine pouches to consolidate and evaluate their potential role in reducing the health risk associated with smoking. For this review, a total of 54 papers were identified and organized under 5 key endpoints, as I will illustrate later. Research indicates that nicotine pouches may present reduced exposure to harmful chemicals as well as reduced toxicity to cells when compared to cigarettes under laboratory conditions. Additionally, as they do not contain tobacco, they may offer an even greater harm reduction opportunity for smokers who switch compared to traditional snus. Clinical studies in older smokers indicate that nicotine pouches typically increase blood nicotine levels to a lesser degree and slower than cigarette smoking, depending on the product's physiochemical characteristics, leading to a reduced abuse liability than cigarettes. Additionally, they can reduce cravings, urge to smoke, withdrawal symptoms, and have other positive subjective effects, such as satisfaction and relief among smokers. Biomarker studies suggest reduced exposure to harmful chemical toxicants compared to cigarette smoking, favorable change in indicators of disease, reduced accessibility to infections or potential nervous system damage, and significant reduction in oral lesions. However, data from long-term human population studies is still limited. Regarding youth use, surveys conducted in the US and Europe suggest a low prevalence of use and interest in tobacco-free nicotine pouches, both absolutely and relative to other tobacco and nicotine products. While this is encouraging, further assessment is needed over time. For adults, data generally show low but potentially growing use prevalence as awareness increases, regional and cultural differences in use, appeal to older smokers, especially those with a history of tobacco and nicotine use, but not to never smokers, and good understanding of the relative risk compared to other tobacco and nicotine products. In conclusion, the findings of this review suggest that nicotine pouches have the potential to support tobacco harm reduction efforts and may help inform evidence-based regulation. In particular, nicotine pouches may have lower chemical and toxicological impact compared to cigarettes and even traditional snus, and may potentially lead to a reduced risk of harm to health. They can provide satisfactory nicotine delivery, reduce abuse liability, and generate positive subjective effects in older smokers seeking a potential risk-reduced alternative to cigarettes, but not interested in quitting smoking or nicotine use. Data from the US and Europe suggest that prevalence among youth is low, while among adults it is low but growing. Nicotine pouches predominantly appeal to and are used by existing users of combustible and non-combustible tobacco products. These are all promising findings in relation to harm reduction potential, and if the situation remains the same, any negative impacts on population health should be minimized. However, an appropriate future regulation and governance is warranted. Before closing, I'd like to thank everyone involved, in particular Ian Fear from What If Consulting and all the Imperial Brands colleagues involved in this work. Thank you for your attention.